What happens when the Queen of Entitlement ends up in jail? Prepare to be amazed by the story of when a Karen goes to prison. But the crucial query is whether her captivity will result in redemption or just strengthen her anarchic rule. Welcome back to our channel, everyone. You won't want to miss the astonishing story we have for you today. We all understand what a Karen is, those entitled people who always have to speak to the manager, no matter how little the issue. Today, however, we have something much more shocking. Behind bars, when Karen goes to prison, this one is going to be insane, so buckle up. But hold on, this tale is more complex than it first appears to be. Karen is about to encounter her most difficult foe yet, as she negotiates the harsh reality of prison life. Will Karen finally accept the consequences of her behavior, or will she continue to act like she is entitled to even while in jail? Learn more about this in Behind Bars, when a Karen goes to prison, as this is where the actual struggle takes place. Karen is the protagonist of our story and is infamous for her rudeness and incessant requests. She has made everyone around her life miserable, from store clerks to her neighbors. Karen's deeds, nevertheless, are about to come back to haunt her. She finds herself in a heated argument with police enforcement as her entitlement reaches a new high one day. She's accused of assaulting an officer and resisting arrest because she disobeyed the police officer's commands. Karen continues to act in a belligerent manner as the court case progresses. Although her attorney tries to defend her, it is clear that the judge will not put up with her arrogant demeanor. When the judge finally condemns Karen to prison, she is shocked and in shock. She has no idea that the jail setting will be a different place where her typical manipulative and demanding conduct won't be effective. Karen faces several difficulties during her first few days in jail. She notices that she is surrounded by inmates who have heard of her notorious notoriety and knows she can't just demand special treatment. Her biggest threat to existence is the entitlement that once boosted her ego. Despite the challenging surroundings, Karen discovers that she develops surprising friendships with some prisoners who provide her with new insight. Karen begins to think back on her past deeds and the hurt she brought to people as she interacts with her fellow prisoners. She starts to feel guilty and realizes how her entitlement has affected those around her. She begins to let go of her entitled perspective gradually, and real transformation begins to occur. There are still questions and uncertainties as Karen's release date draws near. Will her newly discovered empathy and humility withstand the difficulties of the outside world, or will she revert to her old behaviors? On the day of her release, she commits to change for the better this time, both to herself and to those around. No more acting arrogantly or upsetting other people. Karen's experience in prison has changed her in ways she never anticipated. Karen confronts a difficult hurdle as she returns to the outer world, incorporating her newly acquired humility and empathy into her daily activities. As she engages with those she had mistreated, including store staff, neighbors, and even family members, the real test starts. When faced with annoyance and aggravation, can Karen resist the impulse to act entitled once more? Following her release, Karen encounters circumstances that cause her to act as entitled as she did before. She takes a deep breath, though, and reminds herself of the lessons she discovered while inside. She gradually starts to exchange her demands for courteous asks and her haughtiness for empathy. As time passes, Karen begins to re-establish her reputation and patch up her strained connections. Others who are close to her observe the change, but are reluctant to accept it since they still have memories of the Karen she used to be. She persists nonetheless, desperate to demonstrate the veracity of her metamorphosis. Karen encounters obstacles on her path to atonement. She occasionally blunders and reverts to her old habits. She always gets back up, though, and is more determined than ever to leave her past behind. Through acts of kindness and empathy, Karen starts to rebuild trust with those she once offended. She volunteers at local community events, offers a helping hand to neighbors, and becomes an advocate for positive change. Slowly but surely, she gains the respect and admiration of those who were once on the receiving end of her entitlement. News of Karen's transformation reaches the community, and her story inspires others to reflect on their behavior too. People begin to question their actions and how they treat those around them. The ripple effect of Karen's redemption spreads far beyond her own life, leaving a lasting impact on the community she once troubled. It is clear that the Karen we knew at the start of the novel is no longer as Karen's trip draws to a close. She has been replaced by a woman who has confronted her history, matured from her errors, and become a better version of herself. No one is beyond redemption, as Behind Bars, When a Karen Goes to Prison, serves as a potent message. When given the chance and assistance, even those who appear to be beyond saving can transform. The lesson from Karen's tale is that there is always room for improvement and transformation if we can see past someone's transgressions. As time passes, Karen's metamorphosis is permanently ingrained in her personality. She understands that sustained work and self-awareness are necessary for actual change. Even in the face of obstacles, she is compelled to stay on the right road because she wants to preserve her newly acquired humility and empathy. Karen develops into a supporter of personal development and redemption as she goes. She tells her experience to encourage others who might be having behavioral issues in neighborhood gatherings, in classrooms, and even on online forums. Her message strikes a chord with many people, touching the hearts of those who, like her, was previously caught up in the entitlement trap. To make amends and repent for her previous actions, Karen reconnects with people she once had disagreements with, thanks to her newly discovered empathy. Some people immediately accept her apology, while others are more reserved but applaud her efforts to change. Longtime former state senator Karen Carter Peterson, who had a dramatic fall from grace, was sentenced on Wednesday to 22 months in federal prison for stealing more than $140,000 from the funds of the state Democratic Party and her campaign account to gamble at casinos. Peterson, 53, was given until March 6 to go to the Federal Bureau of Prisons after U.S. District Judge Sarah Vance, who handed down the sentence during an emotional hearing attended by the former senator's family, issued the order. Peterson comes from a well-known political family in New Orleans, whose father, Ken Carter, founded the Bold Party and served as assessor for the 1st Municipal District. Peterson represented Uptown in the Louisiana legislature for more than 22 years. From 2013 until 2020, he was the party's chair. She also made 2 runs for Congress, losing both times in a runoff. She was one of the legislators who spoke out most frequently. Her courage to speak up alone in opposition garnered her some friends, but it also frequently irritated her colleagues. When Peterson abruptly left the California Senate in April, her long career came to an end. She confessed to 1 count of wire fraud on August 1st. Her sentence was nearly half of the 41, to the 51-month sentence recommended by federal sentencing guidelines, which are not legally binding but heavily influence judges' decisions. After the 90-minute hearing, Vance showed clemency, but it was not quite as generous as what Peterson's attorneys had asked for, asking the judge to sentence the former attorney to probation or home confinement. However, it came as a shock when Vance categorically rejected several arguments made by Peterson's attorneys, who claimed the sentencing guidelines had been calculated incorrectly, and that Peterson should be given a sentence reduction because of her severe gambling addiction and resulting diminished mental capacity. In her plea, Peterson admitted to taking $147,357 over 7 years from both the state Democratic Party's account and her own 2019 re-election campaign account. Prosecutors claimed that she collaborated with at least 6 co-workers who, in exchange for what appeared to be campaign services, cashed checks she wrote to them and returned the majority of the earnings to her. None of those individuals have been charged and don't seem to be. Peterson had a stellar education and managed to have a successful corporate, political, and consulting career over the 7 years when her offenses happened, Vance, a Clinton appointment, noted skeptically. The assertions made by her attorneys that she had impaired mental competence, according to Vance, strained credulity. However, Harry Rosenberg, a former U.S. attorney, made an incredibly passionate plea, and Vance did seem to be moved. To convince Vance that a sentence of 4 years or longer would be cruel, disproportionate, and pointless, Rosenberg's voice occasionally broke. He said she had changed for the better and was now dedicated to aiding other problem gamblers. Your Honor, I know you've presided over hundreds of sentences, and invariably the defendant expresses regret and remorse at the time of sentencing. He added, I am confident that every word of sorrow and repentance in my statement is the Lord's truth, spoken from the heart, knowing her as a co-worker, my representative, and a close friend. Karen has focused her attention on her relationship with God, her church, her family, and other gambling addicts. Respectfully, jail would only work against these crucial objectives. When Rosenberg's speech reached a certain point, Vance urged him to stop, calling it the longest argument on a variance I've ever listened to. But after he was finished, she gave him praise. Peterson, who was dressed in formal business clothes, also gave an emotional address during which she admitted to several personal failings. She said she lied about her activities because she felt ashamed and apologized to her husband Dana Peterson, her mother Gwen Carter, and a few dozen other friends and family members there. People trusted me to act morally, but I failed, she claimed. She said, I am an imperfect child of God turning to face her audience of supporters. According to Peterson, the criminal charges brought against her were a blessing in disguise because they finally made her face the extent of her addiction. She claimed that she had previously disclosed a problem to individuals who were close to her. However, in March 2019, after WWL-TV revealed that she had broken a self-imposed ban from entering any Louisiana casino, she was obliged to acknowledge her addiction publicly. She continued to find methods to gamble, even as others close to her sought to protect her by restricting her access to money, including by stealing from the Democratic Party and her campaign fund. The case's principal prosecutor, Assistant U.S. Attorney Jordan Ginsburg, vehemently resisted the plea bargain requests. He claimed that a sentence without significant prison time would border on the extraordinary. It would send the exact wrong message to funders, voters, and potentially corrupt public officials. Ginsburg also made many points about Peterson's attempts to change for the better, practically all of which followed her being aware of a federal inquiry into her. Ginsburg and Vance appeared to agree on the merits as Vance listed Peterson's transgressions. She took money for personal use that had been donated by people who believed in her. She recruited others to take part in this dishonest plan. The unlawful activity of the defendant has lowered public trust in our political system. Peterson and her husband had a net worth of around $500,000, according to Vance, making it even more difficult to rationalize the theft. Several times, sobs could be heard in the courtroom, but in the end, the judge ruled that deviating from the rules was justified because a 4-year sentence appeared excessive. Peterson made the Louisiana Democratic Party 6 months ago, according to party officials, by paying $53,107 in compensation. However, they recommended that perhaps the money might be better donated to a nonprofit organization, such as Gamblers Anonymous, Grace House, or Odyssey House. Peterson's attorneys also claimed that she has reimbursed $94,250 to her campaign account to make up for what she took. They stated Vance would have to make that choice. Peterson also agreed to pay any penalties the Louisiana Board of Ethics imposes for submitting false information on his campaign finance records, they added. Vance also added 600 hours of community service, $53,107 in restitution, and a $115,000 fine to the punishment. Ronnie Jones, a lengthy former chairman of the Louisiana Gaming Control Board, is one of many who continues to be dubious of Peterson's promises of self-improvement. In a Senate meeting held behind closed doors, Peterson removed Jones from his job months after WWL-TV revealed her improper entry into a casino. Jones then stated that he thought Peterson fired him out of spite, thinking he had accidentally revealed her name. Later, Peterson disputed that Jones's dismissal was retaliation, writing in a letter to the editor in 2021 that she removed Jones because of Jones's overly close relationship with the gaming business. Jones, who was not present in court on Wednesday, is still irritated by the suggestion. He wrote in an email on Wednesday, "It is not for me to evaluate Miss Peterson. I'll just let her lack candor and disgraceful service speak for her. The multitudes of problem gamblers who have the guts, fortitude, and will to fight every day to manage their problem without turning to steal other people's money are regrettably disrespected by those who lionize and glorify her work and record." In conclusion, Karen's journey from entitled Karen to a beacon of hope in Behind Bars, When a Karen Goes to Prison, is a powerful reminder that redemption is possible for everyone. Her transformation is a testament to the human capacity for change and personal growth. If you were inspired by Karen's story and believe in the power of empathy and compassion, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more thought-provoking content. Together, let's continue spreading positivity and understanding in the world. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey. And until next time, take care and be the change you wish to see in the world.